What's up, guys? So, I thought I'd start this off with one of my classic jokes.
Just one? Can we have more?
Sorry, one is all we have time for. What kind of jacket do you wear on a hike?
Life jacket?
A yellow jacket.
I don't know.
A trailblazer.
Is it black?
Yes. Speaking of trailblazers, last summer I actually became one on Wilderness Trail, which is what you receive after completing 4 successful hikes on a trail. And for those of you who don't know, Wilderness Trail is a backpacking ministry in Troutdale, Virginia that our church goes on a week-long trip to every summer. Now, ever since 6th grade, when I started coming to youth here, I'd always heard of Wilderness Trail, but never really had that much interest to go. But it wasn't until around summer for my freshman year of high school where I decided to go. But honestly, at the time, it was only because some of my closest friends were going. And at that age, like a lot of you, you know, that's a main reason of why you do stuff around here, which isn't a bad thing, but so when we first left and we're all in the church van driving up to Virginia, my friends and I were mainly just talking about what groups we would be in, hoping that we'd all be in the same group together. And after we got to the property and did our routine lap around the property and being greeted by all the workers, first thing you do is go straight to the lodge and figure out what group you're in. And as we all figured out who was in what group, we were all standing in line stressing about who would be with who. I noticed that my friends had figured out they're in a group together. And so that gave me hope of who I'd be with. And it wasn't until I got to the front of the line and figured out that I was actually in a completely different group than the rest of them. And to be honest, it put me in a bad state of mind when I first got there. And it wasn't until around the second day on the trail that it really started to change for me. I was still down on myself and not really being involved with the group and focusing on what my friends were doing at the time and probably having a better time than I was. Until the famous Mike Blackburn came up to me and we started talking. We started talking about how in years past on the middle school mission trip we had created somewhat of a handshake, if you want to call it that. And so we let the whole group in on it and told a bunch of jokes, and basically that it gets so popular that one day LeBron James would do it in one of his games after making a good play with his teammates. And after that was whenever I started getting more involved with our group and started getting involved in games and talking more. And one of the biggest moments was one night when we were at our campsite. We were all by the fire, and we had just finished dinner. We were doing our little session, and we were all doing little foxes, which are basically the low moments of the day on the trail. And I hadn't really talked in any of the sessions before that with our group. But then I felt like I needed to because I had finally embraced with the group. And I told them how I had been feeling, and so it started out as a little fox, but eventually turned into Holy Grail actually, which is a high moment of the day. And just about how after that, I sort of became closer with them and felt better about being on the trail. And so we ended up being called the Balsa Squad for our group, which balsa is like a type of wood that it looks pretty flimsy, but it's actually very strong. And we even did our skit that year on how close we were together and ended up going to the bathroom together in that skit. And every year since that first trip, I've actually been in a group with those friends that I was talking about. But in kind of an ironic way, I've never had a closer group than I have with the Balsa Squad. And I guess that's because if you're with a group of people you don't really know, and you put them in the middle of nowhere for a week, you can really get to know yourself and express it with others who are doing the same. In Corinthians 10:24, it says, "No one should seek their own good, but the good of others." And I think that applies to my story here because, in my opinion, if I had continued to be somewhat selfish and just keep wishing and praying that I were in a different group or that something would happen to where I could be off the trail, I would have never seen how great Wilderness Trail is no matter who you're with, because trail is about finding yourself in God with whom and may be around you. Will you pray with me? Dear Lord, please let everyone here have a good, safe rest of the school year and be able to come out of their shell and become more interactive with those they never thought would be close with them and be able to do good on others. Amen.
Amen.